The bird flu, it's in the news again. A person in the area where I live, they're seriously sick with it. Are your pets, your dogs, your cats at risk with this? And if they ever get it, what exactly can you do about it?
Are you looking to learn more about natural pet health and wellness? You've come to the right place. Click the link to subscribe to Veterinary Secrets.
The bird flu virus, they primarily affect poultry and other birds, but they can affect mammals, including our dogs, our cats, even ourselves. Fortunately, this is very rare, but it does seem that it's on the rise. Like we're seeing more case reports of people that have been affected or animals that have been affected. And currently there's a person in the area of the country where I live who's clinically really ill in hospital and infected with H5N1. This is the bird flu virus. The strange thing is this is a person who did not work on a poultry farm, has not had like frequent contact with chickens. They're clinically sick in hospital and they've contracted the bird flu virus. It's a virus that's able to mutate easily in terms of make slight changes, so then it can adapt, potentially go from a bird, it can go to a mammal, i.e. dog, cat. For instance, earlier this year, the bird flu virus, it rapidly spread in the United States, affecting multiple herds of dairy cows. It affected over 90 herds in 12 states. But not only that, there were multiple cats on these dairy farms that were infected by this bird flu virus. They recorded well over 20 cats in 9 different states getting H5N1 via these cows that were infected. Scientists went back and traced it, and they found that it was primarily through raw, unpasteurized milk. So you'd have, first of all, you have the cows contracting the viruses, all these wild birds that were there that were infected. They infected the cows, once again, which is like, how did that happen? It made the mutated jump. There was high volume of that virus within the milk itself. These cats, these barn cats, they're drinking the milk. They themselves got sick. And unfortunately, many of these cats even died. Turns out our domestic cats, they're actually highly susceptible to H5N1, this bird flu virus. And it's much easier for it to spread via a bird that's infected, via a cow that's secondary infected to a cat, than our dogs. There's also been recorded cases where dogs are infected as well, but it's just far less common. Dr. Cami Johnson, a veterinary epidemiologist, actually says that cats were a bit of a canary in the coal mine. In terms of seeing all these cats getting sick at these dairy farms, that sort of set off big alarm bells because they're knowing like cats are number one, far more susceptible to H5N1 than people are, than dogs are. And to see them being clinically sick in these barns, they're like, okay, something big is going on. There's other ways our pets can get it. In 2023 in Korea, they actually found 2 shelters markedly affected by H5N1. And it turned out what was happening is that these cats were getting fed raw poultry. They had poultry that was infected with H5N1. These cats consumed it, and then they became clinically sick that way. The other big issue of concern is when they look back retrospectively, all these different cats were affected, there actually was a really high mortality, meaning a high percent of these cats that got H5N1, they died. It exceeded over 50%. Well, it's going to be much the same thing that you and I would have if we had the flu virus. We may feel hot, we may have a fever. We may have discharge, coming from our eyes, coming from our nose. Cough, difficulty breathing, pneumonia, sneezing, congestion, just general malaise. Just don't feel great. Kind of how you and I would feel having the flu. Fortunately, most of the time, if your dog has those clinical signs, he most likely has kennel cough or this kennel cough complex, including Bordetella, same with the other canine flu viruses. And with our cats, more likely we're dealing with one of the cat flu viruses, the feline herpes virus, feline calicivirus. The difference here would be if there has been an obvious clinical exposure, i.e. your dog happens to be a hunting dog and he's picking up ducks, maybe there's been a sick duck. You happen to have chickens in your backyard, your dog's exposed to chickens, some of your chickens are sick. Or you have a cat that's an outdoor cat, he happens to be a hunter. It's a lot easier to hunt a sick bird. You're going to get these sick birds infected with the flu virus. Right? That could then expose your cat to that virus. So the prevention, which seems to be in all the different websites, which makes the most sense, just stay away from sick birds. But if you've got an outdoor cat, you've got a dog i.e. Tulip being a dog going out to visit the chicken coop. Yeah, obviously that's not always possible, and sometimes early on it's not obvious that these birds are sick. Often they're seen with chickens, they can go from being just slightly off, just clinically really ill in a short period of time and dying. The FDA, some of the other veterinary sites, they're suggesting that you keep your dog and cat's vaccines up to date. Personally, I would question that wisdom in terms of there isn't a single vaccine that's going to do anything for the bird flu virus. Secondarily, if you had your cats fully vaccinated when they're young, they're going to have pretty decent protection against the cat flu viruses. But less so with their dogs. I mean, really the dog flu viruses aren't part of the typical minimal vaccine schedule, and they're not actually that effective as far as the vaccine goes. My personal belief, some of these vaccines, you're going to give multiple vaccines every year. You're probably going to put more stress on your dog or your cat's immune system, in my opinion, making them more susceptible to the disease. So my own take and what I'm doing with my own dog, my own cat, is not keeping them fully vaccinated. They have their vaccines when they're young. They're not getting any more vaccines now. I feel their immune system now is then better able to prevent some of these serious infectious diseases, such as H5N1. So what happens if you start to see some signs? Your dog has a little bit of eye discharge, a bit of nasal discharge, seems a little bit off. Like, you just rush in and see your veterinarian, like, it's the bird flu. My general suggestion is at least what I would do with my own dog. If I saw some initial respiratory signs, number one, I'd be taking Tula's temperature. Is it normal or not? If she didn't have a fever, just a slight nasal discharge, maybe an eye discharge, a bit of a cough, I would chalk that up to more likely being some type of kennel cough, and then I would treat her appropriately for that. But if she was clinically really sick, I took her temperature, she had a high fever, she's not eating, she's not drinking, well, that would raise much more bigger alarm bells. Then I would have her examined at a veterinarian. And many people ask, like, say my dog was to get H5N1, say my cat had it. Like, Dr. Jones, what alternative treatment would you have us consider taking? This here Propolis, also known as bee glue. It's got a bunch of great studies out showing it to be especially effective against respiratory disease. It's now known to be really effective antibacterial, as well as having some specific antiviral properties. Makes it a really good holistic option. We're trying to potentially help our animals who are going to have a flu virus, even something more serious such as H5N1. I like the oral capsules. We're looking at doses of 100 milligrams of the Propolis per 10 pounds of body weight twice daily. My last big point is you do need to put it in context. We have hundreds of millions of dogs in North America, hundreds of millions of cats. We're seeing, a teeny 0.001% of these animals have ever got the bird flu virus, H5N1. So the risk to your dog, your cat, is really minuscule. It's tiny. Perhaps if you live on a poultry farm, obviously it's slightly higher. But still, knowing, like, in the big context, it's a pretty minimal risk. So yes, I feel it's important to be aware of it, to know that, this virus can mutate, to be aware of your dog or cat's overall health status. And if they do have signs of the flu, more likely it's one of the more common cat flu viruses, the dog flu viruses, i.e. kennel cough complex. And then you treat them accordingly. But no, in the big picture, the chance of them getting the bird flu is really, really small. Be aware of the more serious clinical signs. Take action if that ever happens. But I think in general, most of us can rest pretty easy. Our pets, pretty darn safe. Thanks so much for watching this edition of Veterinary Secrets of the bird flu virus update. Click up there to subscribe, hit the bell to sign up for notifications, and when you click that link directly in the box below, I can send you a copy of my free book.